Nintendo has always been known for taking bold, unexpected turns. Just think about the jump from the Wii to the Wii U, or how the original Switch practically created its own category of hybrid gaming. But this time, they've been unusually quiet. Some might even say suspiciously quiet. Why wouldn't they shout from the rooftops about the Nintendo Switch 2's brand new features and all the incremental improvements lurking beneath the surface? Look a bit closer, and the answer starts to take shape. Right now, you're seeing headlines about bigger screens, new controllers, and fancy specs, but those might just be smoke and mirrors distracting us from the real revolution Nintendo is planning. Even more intriguing is how little they've said about price, game compatibility, or the system's potential in streaming and AI. For a company that redefined mobile gaming, it's curious they've left so many questions unanswered. If you've written off the Switch 2 as a mere visual upgrade, you're missing the bigger picture. This isn't just a shinier version of the console, you know. It could be Nintendo's stealthiest move yet, toward a future that combines handheld gaming, AI-driven experiences, and possibly even a shift in how we think about console lifespans. Let's dive into everything they aren't telling us, and why this might end up redefining not just Nintendo, but the entire gaming landscape. Welcome to Gamers Service Announcement. GSA, the more you know. Click that subscribe button and hit on the alert button to get notified about new videos for you. The most obvious updates that Nintendo has talked about, almost as if reading from a script, center around the system's display, Joy-Con improvements, and incremental hardware perks. Sure, a 1080p LCD that supports HDR and runs up to 120 frames per second is nothing to sneeze at. It's a substantial leap over the original Switch's 720p display and lesser frame rates. Plus, you've got a bigger, sturdier stand that doesn't feel like it's about to snap off the moment you breathe on it. These changes alone might be enough to make some fans happily open their wallets. Then there are the Joy-Cons too. They click into place with strong magnets, include bigger SL and SR buttons, and feature more robust analog sticks. In theory, that means less drifting and more comfort, especially for those with bigger hands. Nintendo also threw in the option for each Joy-Con 2 to act as a mouse, which is basically uncharted territory for a console maker known for family-friendly motion controllers and more casual input methods. We hear about the internal microphone with noise-canceling technology, something Nintendo says is there to help you voice chat with friends, anytime, anywhere. The integrated speakers have also been beefed up with clearer audio output, giving you more immersive 3D sound. On paper, it all sounds like a nice, well-rounded update that addresses a lot of pain points people had with the original Switch. But if you've been following Nintendo for a while, you already know they rarely play all their cards at once. Typically, they tease a few big features, hold back a bunch of details, and then slip in a massive reveal months after launch. Right now, the improvements we're allowed to see feel almost too neat, too tidy, and too predictable. Instead of dropping jaws with a brand new direction, they're essentially saying, here's a shinier display, upgraded Joy-Cons, and a couple of handy ports. Enjoy! It could be a classic Nintendo strategy, giving you a handful of reasons to upgrade now while quietly readying a separate set of bombshell features that'll be revealed later. Even the most innovative companies sometimes use incremental upgrades as a smokescreen for their bigger, more ambitious plans. If that's the case, the main question is, what are they actually hiding? Digging a little deeper, one of the most telling signs that the Switch 2 is more than a superficial hardware refresh is its newly expanded 256 gigabytes of internal storage. That's an 8-fold increase over the original Switch's meager 32 gigabytes. More storage alone might not seem mind-blowing. After all, today's smartphones can pack 512 gigabytes or even 1 terabyte. But in the context of a Nintendo console, this is a huge jump. Historically, Nintendo has been conservative when it comes to internal capacity, preferring to lower costs and push proprietary cartridges or removable storage. This is paired with a major boost in data speeds, which you won't necessarily see spelled out on the packaging. Faster read and write speeds point to a thoroughly modernized internal architecture, possibly built around a more sophisticated custom chipset. Rumor has it, Nintendo is partnering with NVIDIA yet again. No surprise there, since the original Switch was powered by an NVIDIA Tegra processor. But this time, there are whisperings of AI-oriented capabilities baked right into the silicon. Why would a console maker known for platforming heroes and whimsical adventures care about AI? In the broader tech world, the AI revolution is accelerating, with deep learning and machine intelligence creeping into everything from cameras to chatbots. For Nintendo, which has always prided itself on unique gameplay experiences, AI could open doors that traditional hardware improvements simply can't. We're talking about advanced game physics, machine-generated content, real-time translation, or even dynamic NPC interactions that respond to what players say or do through the built-in microphone. If the Switch 2 is indeed harnessing an AI-friendly processor, that could mean we're about to see games that adapt not just to your inputs but to your voice, your patterns, and even your habits over time. Imagine an RPG villain that literally remembers your tactics and evolves with each encounter, or a puzzle game that can spontaneously create new levels based on your skill set. Nintendo has already dabbled in the concept of emergent gameplay with titles like Breath of the Wild, but an AI-enabled console could take things to a whole new dimension. From a performance standpoint, an AI-enabled chip could also assist with upscaling or dynamic resolution techniques, letting the console reach near 4K experiences without brute forcing all that processing power the way a high-end PC or next-gen console might. NVIDIA's DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling technology, is a prime example of how AI can be leveraged to enhance visuals without demanding monstrous GPU resources. If Switch 2 supports a variant of DLSS, it could theoretically punch well above its weight class, particularly when docked, while using less energy overall. The big question is why Nintendo decided not to highlight any of this AI talk publicly. Perhaps they're waiting for the perfect moment to reveal that the Switch 2 can do more than just display games more crisply. Or maybe they want to prevent the console from being overshadowed by AI hype that might scare off their mainstream audience. After all, AI can be a buzzword that invites a lot of scrutiny, and if they're not ready to showcase it in a real game scenario, they might prefer to keep it under wraps until they have a polished demo. If the AI angle feels a bit too futuristic, consider how it fits into the broader trends in gaming and consumer tech. Sony and Microsoft are barreling forward with subscription services and cloud streaming, hoping to make the idea of buy once, play anywhere mainstream. Meanwhile, PC gaming continues to expand, with Steam offering frequent leaps in what's considered standard performance. Nintendo, on the other hand, has largely stayed in its own lane, focusing on the synergy between handheld and home console experiences. The Switch 2, however, might be Nintendo's way of quietly slipping onto the same cutting edge without alienating its traditional audience. The built-in microphone with noise canceling, the improved speakers, the mention of 3D audio, none of these feel like incidental upgrades. They could easily tie into a grander vision for interactive gaming, streaming, or even voice-controlled menus. Picture a game that uses robust voice commands, letting you quickly call out to in-game characters, open menus by voice, or coordinate with teammates in an online match without ever fumbling through on-screen overlays. Rumors also point to Nintendo dabbling in cloud processing behind the scenes. If that's the case, the Switch 2 could be designed to seamlessly offload resource-intensive tasks to a server, or let you jump into streaming-based gameplay with minimal lag. NVIDIA has GeForce Now, Microsoft has xCloud, Sony has PS Now, so if Nintendo is forging its own path, it may partner with NVIDIA to integrate certain back-end features that let them keep up in the streaming arms race. Why then is there no big switch to cloud gaming marketing splash? Possibly because they know how cautious their user base can be. Many Nintendo fans love the physical game aspect. Cartridges, collectible boxes, that tangible ownership feeling. Advertising a streaming future too soon might rock the boat. So from a strategic standpoint, it's simpler to emphasize the features everyone's asking for. Better display, improved controllers, backward compatibility, while letting the streaming story unfold more gradually. Another possibility is that Nintendo wants third-party publishers to experiment with streaming options on Switch 2, without overshadowing the console's identity. Think about how Capcom tested cloud versions of certain Resident Evil games on the original Switch. If this new system is more robust in that department, developers might bring bigger AAA titles to the platform, testing the waters for potential future expansions. Nintendo can then let the success of those experiments speak for itself, rather than making grand announcements. This measured approach is quintessentially Nintendo. They often prefer a slow reveal rather than showing every card up front. By opting for a quiet pivot, they minimize risk. If cloud or AI features remain niche, they can double down on the traditional console approach. But if these features spark a new wave of gaming experiences, they'll be positioned as early adopters, even if they didn't claim center stage for it. It's impossible to analyze Nintendo's next move without acknowledging the colossal influence of Sony and Microsoft. While Nintendo soared with the original Switch's success, the other two giants continued refining their own ecosystems. Sony harnessed the massive popularity of the PS4 and then the PS5, focusing on cinematic exclusives and robust online services. Microsoft, on the other hand, has been investing heavily in cross-platform strategies and streaming technologies, epitomized by Game Pass and xCloud. Nintendo's brilliance often lies in sidestepping these direct clashes. They rarely compete on raw power, but with the Switch 2, you can see glimpses of a more direct confrontation. That 4K-capable dock, for instance, signals they're not oblivious to the higher resolutions demanded by modern TVs. The built-in fan in the dock suggests they expect sustained higher performance, possibly for AAA games or streaming experiences that push the hardware more aggressively than the original Switch ever did. Sony has Remote Play and is rumored to be exploring portable handhelds again. Think PSP, Vita, or even expansions on the DualSense. Microsoft shows no signs of slowing down in cloud gaming. Meanwhile, the line between console and handheld is blurring, as more people expect gaming on the go to be almost as seamless as console or PC experiences. If Nintendo wants to remain the undisputed leader in hybrid gaming, it can't afford to be complacent. The Switch 2's top-to-bottom redesign, bigger screen, better performance, new connectivity, could be read as a direct shot across the bow of its competitors. Yet, in classic Nintendo fashion, they refuse to paint it that way publicly. There's no aggressive marketing campaign about how the Switch 2 matches or surpasses the PS5 or Xbox Series X. Instead, they focus on the console's fun factor, highlighting local multiplayer with Joy-Cons, sharing gameplay experiences, and the convenience of switching between handheld and docked modes. That's the official narrative. But between the lines, you see a device that's built to handle bigger workloads, more complex games, and even some form of streaming. The war is happening, but it's hidden behind the family-friendly facade that Nintendo has perfected. To a lot of fans, backward compatibility can make or break a new Nintendo system. The promise is simple. Can I pop in my old games or re-download digital titles I've already paid for without any hassle? The answer for the Switch 2 is a cautious yes. Nintendo says it'll play physical and digital Switch games. At least, that's the official line. The real test will be the day fans try out their entire library. Will everything run seamlessly, or will some games require patches, purchases, or subscriptions? Nintendo's past offers a trail of clues. The DS could play Game Boy Advance games, the Wii had support for GameCube discs, and the Wii U was backwards compatible with Wii games. But each of these had quirks or limitations. The 3DS had features locked to the new 3DS model, requiring owners of the older version to upgrade if they wanted to play certain titles or use certain functions. We might see something similar here. The Switch 2, with its new architecture, might offer special enhancements, only available if you're playing a Switch 2 version of a game, like better frame rates, higher resolutions, or advanced features like AI upscaling. Meanwhile, owners of the original Switch could be locked out of these next-gen perks. That's not necessarily unfair, but it does encourage a slow, steady migration to the new platform. Moreover, the question of digital ownership is huge. Will Nintendo adopt a user-friendly approach that automatically upgrades eligible Switch titles to their Switch 2 equivalents? Or will they pull a buy-again move for certain game expansions or next-gen re-releases? While fans might love Nintendo's creativity, they often critique the company's sometimes archaic approach to digital rights. If your entire library is locked behind repurchasing or complicated upgrade paths, that could turn off dedicated players. Still, from a business standpoint, it's a proven strategy. The Switch is in over 100 million households. Even if only a fraction of those owners buy the Switch 2, that's still a massive built-in user base. If certain must-have features or performance boosts are exclusive to the new hardware, an enormous chunk of fans will eventually feel pressured to upgrade. Over time, the old Switch will naturally fade, and the Switch 2 will take its place, without Nintendo having to publicly force an end-of-life scenario for the original model. One of the biggest misconceptions about Nintendo is that it tries to compete on specs. Historically, that's not been the case. Remember the Wii? It ran on hardware significantly weaker than the PS3 or Xbox 360, yet it outsold both for a while because of its innovative motion controls and approachable design. The success of the Switch revolved around the concept of seamless home console plus handheld integration, not raw power. Where the Switch 2 truly stands out is in its modularity and potential for ongoing evolution. The new Joy-Con snap-on with magnets, which might pave the way for specialized attachments. Think stylus-like accessories for art games, camera add-ons for AR experiences, or even new forms of motion controls. The dual USB-C ports mean you can charge and attach accessories in multiple ways. These might sound like minor quality of life improvements, but collectively, they hint at a device that can transform or scale over time. Think about how the original Switch was expanded through Labo cardboard kits, Ring Fit Adventure, and various third-party accessories. If the new system's magnets, ports, and other hardware features are all more robust, that opens up room for countless new expansions in the future, none of which Nintendo necessarily needs to detail right now. They can roll them out over the system's lifespan, keeping the console fresh and relevant long after rivals have moved on to their next hardware iteration. Nintendo has historically been comfortable letting each console generation run its course over 5 to 6 years. The Switch 2 might be aiming even further. If the hardware is flexible enough and the AI or streaming components can be updated over the air, there's potential for a console that stays competitive in small increments, similar to how smartphones get better with software updates, even though the physical device remains the same. Why does that matter? Because longevity translates to a massive install base, stable software sales, and a flourishing ecosystem of games. If you don't feel pressured to buy a new console every few years, you'll likely invest in more software. Developers in turn know they have a wide audience to sell to, which encourages more creative or ambitious projects. Meanwhile, Sony and Microsoft might move on to a PlayStation 6 or another iteration of Xbox, but Nintendo can keep refining the Switch 2 ecosystem, dropping firmware updates, new Joy-Con variants, and expansions that keep interest high. Perhaps the most telling aspect of the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal is how many glaring details were left out. Usually, when a company announces new hardware, they like to flash a big price tag if it's competitive, or at least dangle a ballpark figure. Nintendo, however, has been eerily silent on cost. While they didn't talk about the price, Nintendo will launch with 2 SKUs, a base model at $449.99 and a model packed in with Mario Kart World at $499.99. Why not let us know ahead of time? Then there's battery life, which often makes or breaks the portability of a device. They didn't say a word on that front. If the console truly supports up to 120 frames per second and HDR on a bigger screen, that's going to pull significantly more power than the original Switch. Unless Nintendo has devised some magical new battery tech, or the rumored AI-oriented chip is extremely power efficient, there's a real possibility that battery life might be shorter, or at best, on par with the older model. For a device that touts the freedom to play anywhere, that's a critical omission. We also have no concrete explanation of online functionality or how the updated eShop ecosystem will look. Nintendo's online services have historically lagged behind the competition. Will they catch up, or is this generation still going to rely on friend codes and slow matchmaking? The integrated microphone and improved speakers suggest they might be stepping up their game, but it's hard to celebrate features we haven't fully seen in action. And what about that rumored AI integration? If it's actually part of the core hardware, Nintendo might wait to show it off until there's a killer app or game that demonstrates why it's a game changer. Otherwise, announcing it too early could trigger skepticism, especially in a fan base that values simplicity and reliability. Finally, there's the ever-present question of how the Switch 2 will handle digital backward compatibility. Nintendo said it'll play old Switch games, but they stopped short of guaranteeing a seamless library transfer. Will you have to log into the same Nintendo account you used for the original Switch and hope everything still works? Will certain titles need Switch 2 editions that cost extra to unlock new features? By staying silent, Nintendo keeps all these scenarios on the table, letting them gauge public reaction or finalize details without locking themselves into any promises. In many ways, Nintendo's silence is the most intriguing part of this console's launch cycle. Every new question or speculation fuels more interest. By the time they do a full info drop, the hype machine will be roaring, whether in their favor or not. From a marketing perspective, it's brilliant. Create a thirst for details and then quench it bit by bit, so each reveal feels like a major announcement. Nintendo has never been one to follow a traditional playbook. While other companies wage headline wars over teraflops, load times, and streaming backends, Nintendo quietly focuses on unique experiences, fun, inclusive games that can appeal to kids and adults alike. With the Switch 2, however, they seem to be at a crossroads, bridging the gap between a purely family-friendly gaming device and a forward-looking platform that can hold its own against next-gen competitors. In essence, this might be the real story behind the Switch 2, a console that wears a friendly, playful face on the outside, but quietly packs enough tech to revolutionize how we engage with games. Between the larger, higher-quality screen, the advanced Joy-Cons, potential AI capabilities, streaming readiness, and a brand new approach to storage and system architecture, Nintendo is positioning itself for a longer, more adaptive life cycle. They don't even have to show all their cards right now, just trickle out enough improvements to keep the hype alive, then unleash the bigger surprises once the system is already in millions of homes. For fans, this is both exciting and nerve-wracking. We want to believe the Switch 2 will be everything we hoped for. Stronger hardware for AAA titles, new ways to play, and broad backward compatibility that respects the library we've already built. But there's also a chance that Nintendo's secrecy hides some tough truths, like premium pricing, limited battery life, or complicated upgrade paths. Ultimately, though, that's the delicate dance Nintendo has always performed, giving us glimpses of a magical new world while carefully rationing just how much they reveal. And if history is any indicator, once the Switch 2 is in our hands, the gaming community will be diving into every tiny detail, from launch day mods to deep analysis of the hardware. Some will celebrate its leaps forward, others will critique its shortcomings, but we'll all be talking about it. That's exactly what Nintendo wants. They thrive on curiosity, speculation, and the kind of fan engagement that can't be bought with advertising alone. So as we stand on the brink of another hardware generation, ask yourself this: if Nintendo's already done this much without making a fuss, what else are they planning to unveil once we think we've seen everything? Stay tuned, because the quiet part of this revolution might just be the most important, and it's only getting started. If you like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that alert button for more awesome videos. Gamers Service Announcement: the more you know.